Picture this. You're in a conversation. Someone asks you a simple question in English. What do? Instantly, your brain races back to your native language. You translate the words. You rearrange the grammar. You try to build the perfect sentence. But while your mind is busy translating, the moment passes. The silence grows. And you freeze. That's the hidden trap of translation. It feels safe, but it steals your fluency. I'm Michael, and this is English Journey. Today, we're uncovering why translating in your head is the biggest barrier to speaking English naturally and how to break free from it. Because fluency doesn't come from translation. It comes from thinking directly in English. And once you learn how, everything changes. Let me tell you something important. Translation is a bridge. It helps you cross from your native language into English. But if you stay on the bridge too long, you never arrive. You're stuck halfway, always looking back, never moving forward. And that's why you freeze. Because your brain is busy crossing the bridge instead of living in English. Imagine this. You're watching a movie in English. The characters are speaking fast. You understand the meaning, but only after translating each line in your head. By the time you catch up, the scene has moved on. You miss the joke. You miss the emotion. You miss the connection. That's what translation does. It slows you down. It keeps you behind. It steals the rhythm of English. Here's the truth. Fluency is not about knowing every word. It's about flow. It's about rhythm. It's about thinking directly in English without stopping to translate. Because when you translate, you break the rhythm. You interrupt the flow. You freeze the conversation. And fluency disappears. I remember a learner named Aisha. She told me, Michael, I can understand everything, but I always translate before I speak. And I said, that's why you freeze. Because translation is a delay. And fluency is speed. Slowly, Aisha began to train herself to think in English. At first it was hard. She stumbled. She hesitated. But with practice, she stopped translating. She started thinking directly in English. And today, she speaks with confidence. Not because she learned more words, but because she stopped crossing the bridge. So here's the first step, awareness. Notice when you translate. Notice when your brain runs back to your native language. Notice when you hesitate. Because awareness is the beginning of change. Once you see the habit, you can break it. Once you notice the delay, you can stop it. Once you recognize the freeze, you can move forward. Imagine yourself in a cafe. The waiter asks, would you like coffee or tea? Your brain wants to translate, but instead you stop. You breathe. You answer directly in English, coffee please. Simple, natural, fluent. That's the power of thinking in English. It's faster. It's smoother. It's real. Here's the truth. Translation is a crutch. It helps at the beginning, but it holds you back later. And if you want fluency, you have to let go of the crutch. You have to trust your voice. You have to trust your words. You have to trust yourself. Because fluency is not built on translation. It's built on trust. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop translating? Are you ready to think in English naturally? Are you ready to break the habit that keeps you frozen? Because if you are, your English journey will change forever. You'll move faster. You'll speak smoother. You'll connect deeper. And you'll finally feel fluent. Picture this. You're sitting in a classroom. The teacher asks a question in English. You know the answer. But instead of speaking, your brain runs back to your native language. You translate the words. You rearrange the grammar. You try to build the perfect sentence. And while your mind is busy translating, the moment slips away. That's the hidden cost of translation. It steals time. It steals rhythm. It steals fluency. Here's the truth. Your brain is wired to protect you. It wants to avoid mistakes. It wants to keep you safe. And so, when you face English, it runs back to the language it knows best, your native tongue. That's why you translate. It feels safe. It feels familiar. But safety is not fluency. Familiarity is not growth. And if you want to speak English naturally, you have to step out of safety. You have to stop translating. Think of your brain like a computer. When you translate, you're running two programs at once, your native language and English. That slows everything down. It creates lag. It freezes your response. And in conversations, lag is deadly. Because fluency is speed. Fluency is flow. Fluency is rhythm. And translation breaks all three. I remember a learner named Omar. He told me, "Michael, I always translate before I speak. It feels impossible to stop." And I said, "That's because your brain is addicted to the habit. Translation is a shortcut, but shortcuts don't lead to fluency. They lead to silence." Slowly, Omar began to train himself to think directly in English. At first, it was hard. His sentences were broken. His words were simple. But with practice, he stopped translating. He started trusting his English. And today, he speaks naturally. Not because he learned more grammar, but because he broke the habit. Here's another reason you translate: fear. You're afraid of mistakes. You're afraid of judgment. You're afraid of sounding foolish. And so, your brain tries to protect you by translating. It thinks, if I plan the sentence in my native language first, I'll be safe. But that safety is an illusion, because while you're planning, the conversation moves on. The moment disappears, and you're left silent. Fear is the fuel of translation, and courage is the cure. Imagine a dancer on stage. If they think too much about every step, they stumble. But if they trust the rhythm, they move naturally. Speaking English is the same. If you think too much, you freeze. If you trust the rhythm, you flow. And the more you practice, the more natural that flow becomes. Another reason you translate is habit. You've trained your brain to rely on your native language. Every time you study English, you compare it to your mother tongue. Every time you learn a new word, you translate it back. And slowly, translation becomes automatic. It becomes unconscious. It becomes the default. That's why it feels so hard to stop. Because it's not just a choice. It's a habit. And habits take time to break. But here's the good news. Habits can change. Habits can be replaced. Habits can be broken. And the way to break the habit of translation is to build a new habit, thinking directly in English. At first, it feels strange. At first, it feels uncomfortable. At first, it feels slow. But with persistence, it becomes natural. It becomes automatic. It becomes fluent. Think of it like driving. At the beginning, you think about every move, steering, braking, accelerating. But with practice, it becomes automatic. You don't think. You just drive. English is the same. At first, you translate. But with practice, you stop. You think directly in English. You speak naturally. You flow. So here's the truth. Translation is not a language problem. It's a brain problem. It's the brain's way of protecting you. It's the brain's way of staying safe. But fluency is not built in safety. Fluency is built in courage. Fluency is built in risk. Fluency is built in trust. And if you want to speak English naturally, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust your words. You have to trust your voice. I want you to imagine this. You're in a conversation. Someone asks you a question. Your brain wants to translate, but instead you stop. You breathe. You answer directly in English. It's not perfect, but it's real. It's natural. It's fluent. That's the power of breaking the habit. That's the power of thinking in English. Picture this. You're walking through a busy market. A tourist approaches you and asks in English, "Where is the nearest bus stop?" You understand the question instantly. But instead of answering, your brain runs back to your native language. You translate the words. You try to build the sentence. And while you're stuck in translation, the tourist walks away. That's the cost of translation. It steals the moment. But here's the good news. You can train your brain to stop. Let me tell you about Sophia. She was a brilliant listener. She understood movies, podcasts, and conversations. But she always translated before speaking. She told me, "Michael, I feel like English is a puzzle I have to solve every time." And I said, "Then let's stop solving puzzles. Let's start living in English." We began with simple exercises. Every morning, she described her breakfast in English. "I am eating bread. I am drinking tea. I am happy." At first, she hesitated, but slowly the sentences flowed. Day by day, she stopped translating. She started thinking directly in English. And soon, she spoke naturally. Not because she learned more grammar, but because she trained her brain to trust English. Here's an exercise you can try right now. Look around you. Pick one object. Name it in English. Then describe it. This is a chair. The chair is brown. I sit on the chair. Simple, direct, natural. No translation. Do this every day. Train your brain to connect English words directly to reality. Because fluency is not about translation. It's about connection. Another learner I met was Daniel. He froze every time someone asked him a question. He told me, "Michael, I know the answer, but I can't say it without translating." So I gave him a trick. Answer with the first English word that comes to mind. Don't plan. Don't translate. Don't overthink. Just speak. At first, his answers were short. One word. 2 words. But slowly, they grew into sentences. And soon he was speaking freely. Because he stopped waiting for the perfect translation. He started trusting his English. That's the key. Trust. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your words. You have to trust that even if it's not perfect, it's enough. Because communication is not about perfection. It's about connection. People don't remember your mistakes. They remember your message. They remember how you made them feel. And if you speak with courage, they will listen. Here's another exercise. Narrate your actions in English. As you cook, say, "I am cutting vegetables." As you walk, say, "I am walking to the store." As you study, say, "I am reading a book." Speak out loud. Don't translate. Don't plan. Just narrate. Because the more you connect English to your daily life, the more natural it becomes. The more you practice, the less you translate. The more you speak, the more fluent you are. I remember May. She loved storytelling, but she always translated before speaking. So I asked her to tell me a short story in English. At first she froze. She hesitated, but then she began. One sentence, then another, then a full story. And when she finished, she smiled, because she realized she could do it. She could speak. She could share. She could connect. And that moment changed everything, because she discovered that fluency is not about rules. It's about stories. It's about sharing yourself. So here's a hook for you. Don't just study English. Live it. Use it in your daily life. Speak to yourself in English. Speak to others. Speak to the world. Because the more you use it, the less you translate. The more you practice, the more natural it feels. The more you speak, the more fluent you become. Another powerful exercise is role play. Imagine a situation, a cafe, a job interview, a party. Pretend you're there. Speak as if you're in that moment. Practice the dialogue. Practice the responses. Practice the rhythm. Because role play prepares you for real conversations. It trains your brain to respond under pressure. It builds confidence. And it reduces translation. Ahmed was preparing for a job interview in English. He translated every answer in his head. So he practiced role play. I asked him common interview questions. He answered. He stumbled. He tried again. And slowly he improved. On the day of the interview, he spoke with confidence. He didn't translate. He connected. And he got the job. Because practice turned translation into fluency. So let me remind you, translation is not failure. Translation is feedback. It shows you where you need practice. It shows you where you need courage. It shows you where you need growth. And if you use that feedback, you will improve. You will grow. You will become fluent. Here's the final exercise for today. Speak even when you don't feel ready. Don't wait for the perfect word. Don't wait until you know more. Don't wait until you feel confident. Because confidence comes from action. Fluency comes from practice. Growth comes from speaking. So speak now. Speak today. Speak every day. And soon, you'll discover that translation is gone. Silence is broken. Fluency is yours. And I'll be here with you. Every word, every sentence, every story. Because this is your English journey. And together, we'll stop translating. We'll start thinking. We'll start speaking. This is how you think in English naturally. Picture this. You're standing in front of a mirror. You look at yourself, and you whisper a sentence in English. It's shaky. It's imperfect. But it's yours. And in that moment, you realize something powerful. Fluency doesn't begin with translation. It begins with courage. It begins with the choice to think in English, even when it feels uncomfortable. That's the choice that will change everything. We've uncovered why you translate: fear, habit, overthinking, the brain's protective instinct. We've explored exercises, stories, and strategies. And now, it's time to bring it all together. Because the truth is simple, translation is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your transformation. Imagine yourself in a conversation. Someone asks you a question. Your brain wants to translate. But instead, you stop. You breathe. You answer directly in English. One word, one sentence, one story. And suddenly, the translation disappears. The rhythm flows. The conversation continues. That's fluency. That's courage. That's growth. Here's the final lesson: persistence. Thinking in English is not built in a day. It's not built in a week. It's built over time. Through repetition. Through mistakes. Through courage. You will translate again. You will hesitate again. You will stumble again. But every time you resist translation, you'll be stronger. Every time you try, you'll be braver. Every time you speak, you'll be closer to fluency. Persistence is the key. Consistency is the path. Courage is the fuel. I remember a learner named Raj. He translated constantly. He doubted himself. He wanted to quit. But he kept going. Every day, he spoke one sentence directly in English. Every day he practiced. Every day he faced his fear. And slowly the translation faded. The fluency grew. Today, he speaks English with confidence. Not because he never translated, but because he never gave up. That's the power of persistence. That's the secret of fluency. So let me ask you, will you persist? Will you keep speaking even when it's hard? Will you keep practicing even when it's boring? Will you keep trying even when you translate? Because if you do, you will succeed. You will speak. You will connect. You will shine. Fluency is not about talent. It's about persistence. And persistence is a choice. Your choice. Here's a final exercise. Every time you catch yourself translating, don't stop. Don't quit. Don't hide. Speak anyway. Say something. Anything. Even if it's wrong. Even if it's messy. Even if it's short. Because speaking anyway is the cure for translation. Speaking anyway is the path to fluency. Speaking anyway is your victory. And the more you do it, the less you translate. The more you speak, the more fluent you become. The more you try, the more confident you are. I want you to imagine the future. Imagine yourself in a conversation. Someone asks you a question in English. You smile. You answer. Your words flow. Your voice is clear. Your confidence shines. That moment is waiting for you. That future is possible. That fluency is yours. But only if you begin now. Only if you persist. Only if you think in English. So here's my final message. Don't fear translation. Don't fear mistakes. Don't fear silence. Because translation is not failure. Translation is feedback. Translation is growth. And if you use it, you will improve. You will grow. You will become fluent. This is your English journey. This is your transformation. This is your voice. And I'll be here with you. Every word, every sentence, every story. Because together, we will stop translating. Together, we will start thinking. Together, we will speak naturally. This is how you stop translating in your head. This is how you think in English. This is how you become fluent. Welcome to English Journey. And welcome to your voice.